Slaps between MPs in the Verkhovna Rada, the official dismissal of the Prime Minister, and an explosion that interrupted a live broadcast. This is TSN Online. I'll tell you how today's events unfolded right now. My name is Natalia Ostrovska. Let's get started. Scuffles behind the podium and a farewell speech from the now former Prime Minister. The Verkhovna Rada has voted to dismiss Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. Who might become the next Prime Minister, and why did the deputies get into a scuffle? In the sky around the clock. Drone duels in the Soldar direction. TSN correspondents witnessed our soldiers fending off a barrage of enemy drones. The Verkhovna Rada has dismissed Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal and his government. 261 deputies voted in favor of this decision. Before the vote, Denis Shmyhal delivered a speech. He thanked the soldiers, the president, his team, the members of parliament, Ukrainian businesses, and international partners for their trust and cooperation. The Prime Minister reported on the main achievements of his government. Opposition deputies reminded him of unfulfilled promises. Denis Shmyhal led the government for more than 5 years. This is the longest term among Ukraine's prime ministers. Starting today, all ministers will serve as acting ministers in their positions until a new government is appointed. Tomorrow, Parliament is already planning to vote for the new prime minister candidate, or more precisely, a female prime minister. President Zelensky has proposed that Economy Minister Yulia Sviridenko head the new government of Ukraine. Denis Shmyhal is expected to head the Ministry of Defense.
We are handing over the country with preserved financial stability, with a sufficient resource base and 100% fulfillment of all our obligations. As of this morning, there are 340 billion hryvnias in the Treasury account. As of this morning, Ukraine's gold and foreign currency reserves are at a record high, over $45 billion. Making Ukraine a stronger, more successful European state was not just a managerial task, but a personal one for us.
Before the government was dismissed, the deputies managed to get into a scuffle. Deputy Alexei Honcharenko tried to block the parliamentary podium where Danilo Hetmantsev was standing at that moment. At that time, the MPs were considering amendments to the tax code regarding an additional duty on soybeans and rapeseed. The opposition deputy believed that the amendments were being adopted in violation of the regulations, so he tried to disrupt the vote on the bill. The shoving and shouting lasted for several minutes. The coalition majority managed to defend the podium. In the end, the bill was still passed. What are your impressions of what you saw? Did you miss the deputies' fights? Leave your comments and don't forget to like this video. And our Dmitry Sviatenko recalled a retrospective of parliamentary fights that made it into the top according to viewers. Watch it in the new video on the TSN YouTube channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss it. We continue with the broadcast. Now, about the consequences of enemy shelling. In Kyiv, 3 people were injured. The Russians carried out more than 12.5 air attacks on the Kyivsky district of the city. Civilian infrastructure objects there have been destroyed and damaged. In Vinnytsia, enemy strikes were recorded in several locations at once. There, 8 people were wounded. As a result of the Russian attack on the city, the Kost woodworking enterprise caught fire. 2 workers suffered severe burns. There were also strikes in the region. The occupiers targeted residential buildings, but there were no casualties there. And in Kryvyi Rih, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the occupiers struck with a missile and nearly 30 shahids. They damaged an industrial facility. It is known that a teenager was injured. He has a serious wound. There is 1 dead and 5 wounded in Nikopol. The enemy shelled the city with heavy artillery. A bank, a hair salon, shops, a pharmacy, and apartment buildings were damaged. The occupiers wounded 11 people in Donetsk region. Rodinsk was shelled with Smerch rocket launchers. 2 apartment buildings were damaged there. There is also destruction in Dreshkivka and Mirnohrad. A fire broke out as a result of the shelling of Izmail. That's in the Odessa region. An infrastructure facility was hit. 2 medics were wounded in the Kharkiv region. A strike drone hit an ambulance in Kupiansk. The city is under constant shelling. The day before, 2 local residents were killed in the community and 2 more were wounded. Check the contents of your emergency backpack to survive. Experts have compiled the experiences of Ukrainians who survived after a drone strike and, after analyzing specific cases, have developed a set of recommendations. Of course, every rescue situation is unique, but there are things that will be useful to most of us during an enemy attack. What should you pack in your backpack, and why do you need a whistle and work gloves? Find out more in the following report.
Yevon from Odessa was preparing to record a song about air raid alerts in the studio, but in the end, it was sun near his half-destroyed house. A Shahid drone hit the neighboring entrance, and the shrapnel reached both his music studio and his apartment.
Corridors, corridors. 2 walls, like borders, scattered across the sky. And shahids and curses.
To save his family, Yevon did everything in advance. A backpack with documents and belongings was ready to go. During the attack, his family hid in a room with a boarded-up window and then managed to quickly run outside from the burning building.
We stood in the hallway with my daughter, wife, and mother-in-law. I stood holding them like this, and we just counted the impacts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yevon shared his experience on social media to warn his fellow citizens about what they might face during an attack and what they need to have ready. And for the future, he added a protective mask and construction gloves to his emergency backpack. He says it's easier to clear debris after a collapse with them. He also recommends having a fire extinguisher and shoes with fix-alls.
Keep some kind of fully enclosed shoes next to you. When windows shatter, everything around you is covered in glass. You need to find a way to get out. While you're moving, you'll end up cutting yourself. When I was leading my family out, the first thing that happened was I stepped on a nail and injured my foot. It's very important during an air raid alert to open the door, or at least unlock it, because any warping of the door and that's it, you're trapped.
And don't forget about water, money, and definitely a powerful flashlight, rescuers remind us. In an Odessa high-rise filled with smoke and dust after a direct drone strike, they were able to quickly find people because those people had turned on their flashlights.
We saw people signaling to us from apartments on the upper floor, specifically using flashlights. And that's how we found out that there were people in some apartments we hadn't known about before. People were signaling to us from the windows with flashlights, showing us where they were, and that's how we found out. That's how we saved them.
You don't need to go to bed with dog food in your pockets, as people are jokingly suggesting on social media these days. Rescuers say that search dogs aren't sniffing around the rubble looking for treats. They're searching for people by their breathing. But having a whistle in your pocket, on the other hand, would definitely not be a bad idea.
We strongly recommend carrying whistles with you, because then you can blow the whistle and, once again, signal where you are. People are tired of this war itself, and we very often hear, whatever happens, happens. People aren't going to shelters. There have been cases when high-rise buildings were hit. The people who were in the parking garage, those who were in shelters, they're all fine, they're alive and well. The only ones who died were those who stayed in their apartments.
And doctors recommend putting a tourniquet in your emergency backpack and at least taking a short first aid course to know how to use it. After the strikes on residential high-rises, tactical medicine courses have become very much in demand again. There, they teach you, among other things, how to survive during a fire.
When something is burning, the greatest danger isn't the temperature. It's the smoke from whatever is burning. That's the most dangerous part. You can take some kind of cloth, pour a little water on it, and cover your face with it. Again, that cloth with water. Don't forget that you'll need to change it.
The classic rules still apply. During an alert, stay close to the exit, keep a bag with documents and essentials nearby, and avoid staying near windows or exterior walls. And of course, the best thing is to go to a shelter, because 2 walls won't protect you from a direct hit. Alina Chernieva, Ivan Savchenko, Odessa TSN 1+1.
Continuous assaults. Some groups destroy, others push. No pity for your own. In the Soldar direction, the enemy is intensifying its attacks, trying to squeeze through somewhere. Both our artillerymen and drone operators get to work. If before, the duels in the fields were between artillery, now they're in the air, between drones. A report from Donetsk region by Ruslan Yermoliak.
While the cannon is being prepared to fire, the soldiers are aiming using fresh coordinates from our aerial scouts, who have spotted a target near Soldar.
They try over there. Well, they tried. It didn't work out, so they just move on to another direction. But they move in groups, sometimes 3, 4, or even 6 or 9 people at a time.
There are a lot of enemy troops, and they're advancing from several directions, on foot in bad weather, and on motorcycles when it's dry. The enemy is being pushed forward by deadlines and blocking detachments.
To say that they care about or protect their personnel, well, no, they don't. Most of the time, when we see their forward groups get killed, other groups just keep coming at us in the same aggressive way. There can be one group or even more. In other words, if they're given a task, they push it to the limit.
To detect the enemy and keep them from getting close to our fortifications, our drones are constantly on watch in the sky. The lives of our infantry are at stake, so our crews are in the air around the clock.
We detect their FPV drones and wings flying at distant lines. That's the analog ones. And we take the appropriate measures. Are there a lot of them? Yeah, there are a lot of them.
While the winged drones are conducting reconnaissance, searching for targets among the tree lines and ruined villages, other drone crews are destroying infantry with drops or FPVs.
Now people fear drones more than snipers. I was saying that the enemy abandons their comrades and runs away from the drone. And they leave them for a long time. They just leave them right on the roads.
Then no one comes to retrieve them. They rot. People just walk around them. There are literally beaten paths around the corpse. People walk or drive around it, and the bodies are never returned to their families.
In the Soldar direction, the enemy is constantly rotating their personnel. There are more attacks now, and the enemy soldiers going into battle are already trained to fight against our drones.
The number of assault attempts has increased along the entire line of responsibility of our brigade. So basically, every day and night, we try to catch them. Very often, we spend several days just to find them, to figure out where they've slipped in, if it's them.
Our howitzer fires at the coordinates of the grove where the enemy is gathering. The gun is quickly camouflaged again, because their drones and shells come flying in response.
Because of the abundance of drones, we often have to get off the road and hide in the bushes, since there's always something flying overhead and you never know if it's ours or not. Especially here, right near the front line, where drones are active 24 hours a day.
Drones now interfere with both our logistics and the enemy's. If before, artillery duels took place in the fields, now it's drone duels.
This is already a drone war. Both they and we are already struggling with logistics. Both sides are switching to ground-based robotic systems. Drones will fight against drones. Pilots will gradually become obsolete. Artificial intelligence will slowly start replacing us.
This is the war of the future, and we're witnessing it with our own eyes. And although drones are slowly pushing soldiers off the battlefield, for now, the soldier is still irreplaceable. That means our guys on the front line constantly need to be resupplied, both with equipment and with new people. Ruslan Yermoliuk, Mikhailo Putyata, TSN 1+1, reporting from the Soldar direction.
And once again, tensions are rising in the Middle East, even though the Americans are urging both sides to stop immediately. Israel is striking the downtown area of the Syrian capital, Damascus. They hit the country's general staff headquarters, and this was caught on video by many reporters, some of which you can see right now. In particular, this is footage from the Qatari TV channel Al Jazeera. In it, the journalist is asking to be put on live immediately. And this is a Syrian TV channel where the explosion interrupted a live broadcast. Turkish journalists also filmed the explosion. The Arab TV channel Al Arabiya, in these shots, shows the immediate aftermath of the strike. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu states that he is acting to protect the Druze community, a minority that the Jewish state has pledged to defend. About 1 million Druze live in Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. In Syria's Soweto province, they are the majority. Israel declared this province a demilitarized zone. But the new Syrian authorities did not agree with this and sent troops there. In response, Israel began launching strikes. Don't target Moscow. Donald Trump commented on reports in the American media that he had allegedly discussed strikes on the Russian capital with President Zelensky. The press asked the head of the White House about this conversation. Does Trump think that Zelensky should carry out such a strike? The American president replied that, in his opinion, Kyiv should not target Moscow. Donald Trump also denied that he intends to provide Ukraine with long-range weapons, something that global media had previously reported on as well. The deadline of 50 days given to the Kremlin to sign a truce was called a very long period of time by the US president. If this does not happen, Donald Trump promises new sanctions and stated that he believes a truce could be reached sooner. Mr. President, why are you giving Putin an extra 50 days to attack Ukraine? Oh, I don't think 50 days is too long. It could happen even sooner. I don't think that's very long. They should ask Biden the same thing. Why did he drag us into this war? Poland's top diplomat wants more pressure on Russia during the 50-day period announced by Trump. Radoslaw Sikorski expressed hope that this period would be a time to increase pressure on Moscow so that, quote, it finally comes to its senses. The head of Poland's foreign ministry views it positively that Donald Trump has reached the same conclusions as the EU countries, namely, that Putin does not want peace. Poland's top diplomat also commented on the agreement between the US and NATO to purchase American weapons for Ukraine. Sikorski believes it would be better if the payment came from the frozen assets of the aggressor rather than from the pockets of European taxpayers. According to the NATO Secretary General, Germany, the United Kingdom, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, and Canada are planning to join the initiative to purchase American weapons. At the moment, not all of these countries have confirmed their participation. This was Natalia Ostrovska with you. Subscribe to this channel, be sure to comment on the episode, and give it a like. Next up are the highlights of today in brief. The first day of a major government reshuffle. The Verkhovna Rada dismissed Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, who had led the cabinet for more than 5 years. 261 deputies voted in favor of this decision. During his speech in Parliament, Shmyhal expressed a lot of gratitude to everyone, especially the armed forces of Ukraine and the president.
We are handing over the country with preserved financial stability, with a sufficient resource base and 100% fulfillment of all our obligations.
Prosecutors with disabilities will be checked. A special disciplinary commission is handling this. There are 484 prosecutors with disabilities remaining in the prosecutors' offices, of whom 348 are awaiting a decision from the disciplinary commission. 41 employees did not live to see the inspection. They submitted their resignations of their own accord. Let me remind you, in the fall of 2024, law enforcement officers kidnapped the head of the Khmelnytsky region's MSCC, Tatiana Krupa, as well as her son Alexander Krupa, the head of the regional pension fund. They are suspected of illegally amassing millions of dollars. Prosecutors who received certificates with fake diagnoses could have been accomplices. It shouldn't be aimed at Moscow. Donald Trump responded to discussions about supplying long-range weapons to Ukraine. He denied having any such intentions. Earlier, the American outlet Axios, citing its own sources, reported that in addition to Patriots, the US is considering supplying weapons capable of reaching all the way to Moscow. In addition, the 50-day deadline presented to the Kremlin for signing a ceasefire was called a very long period of time by the US president. If this does not happen, Trump promises new sanctions and stated that he believes a ceasefire could be reached sooner.
Oh, I don't think 50 days is too long. It could happen even sooner.
A flashy selfie with deadly consequences. Ukrzaliznytsia practiced how to save train surfers on electric trains. Teenagers are increasingly climbing onto train cars for impressive photos on social media, but as a result, they end up with burns or even instant death. So Ukrzaliznytsia held special training sessions, which were observed by school children. On the roof of one of the train cars lay a mock victim who had just been electrocuted, and the attending emergency workers and medics had to save him. Just this year, 14 miners have died due to violations of railway safety rules. 9 of them were killed specifically by electric shock.
You know, honestly, it's just really messed up. If you get hit by electricity, it's going to be a nightmare.
Kids especially tend to use the railway to try to make a name for themselves during the holidays.
Global warming in action. Unusually high temperatures have been recorded beyond the Arctic Circle. In Santa Claus's homeland, temperatures of around 30 degrees Celsius have been recorded, even though the usual temperature at this time is about 20. In the town of Rovaniemi, where Santa Claus's house with reindeer is located, locals are heading to the beach to escape the stifling heat. The waterfronts there now look more like southern Europe. People are swimming, sunbathing on the sand, and doing water sports.